David Clarke finally back on Twitter, right? Finally boycotted, but now he's back. He says, Ruth Ginsburg articulates why we elected Trump because he isn't a lawyer. Lawyers have screwed this country up. Our greatest POTUSs, presidents, were not lawyers. Lawyers made slavery go on longer than it should have in Plessy versus Ferguson and Dred Scott decision. David Clarke, great tweet. And I kind of thought about that, and I was going through my mind, like, yeah, the worst presidents we had were lawyers. Now, we had a couple of non-lawyers that were kind of duds in there. I was not a George W. Bush fan, as you know, and I'm not sure if he was a lawyer or not. Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer, right? So he wasn't a lawyer. I don't think he's up there in the top 10. But why don't you elaborate on that?
Sure, let's go through this a little bit. First of all, the arrogant elitism of Ruth Ginsburg was on display with that. She was trying to admonish the president like he was a dullard, like he didn't know what he was talking about when it came to the law. And that's why I said, wait a minute, lawyers have screwed this country up. I named those two Supreme Court decisions there were fought by lawyers to continue slavery. But, if you go through the history of the United States and our presidents, all the way back to the first one, George Washington, 9 U.S. presidents never even attended college. As a matter of fact, George Washington had no formal education. Some of our best presidents, I would go on to say, have not been lawyers. Look at Ronald Reagan, look at George Washington, and there are some others. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer, but he was self-taught. So I guess if you have to be so smart to be a lawyer and pass the bar, why didn't Abraham Lincoln have to go to law school? So you look at this and the way they think, and some of it is her formal education. I guess, they think that if you didn't go to Harvard or Yale Law School, that you're not worthy to even talk about the Constitution, talk about the law. I think nothing's further from the truth. You mentioned George W. Bush. He went to business school, I believe, at Yale. One of the problems that we have, I believe, in our government at the Supreme Court level, since she's the one that was flapping her gums and pointing to the Supreme Court, is that I think every current member of the Supreme Court, all the 9 justices, have attended either Harvard or Yale. So you have a very skewed and a very narrow view of the world from those two elitist colleges sitting on our high court. And I think that it's detrimental to how they view the world. And that isn't just my view. That's the view of one of the sitting members, who I will not name, out of confidentiality, who said that is a problem as he sees it. So I can narrow it down there if I said that he sees it. Is that they have a narrow view on the United States Supreme Court. So I think they came out, with her statement about the President of the United States.
Well, I tell you what, the elitism that is going on right now. We were reading a quote earlier by one of the so-called swing district Trump Democrats that decided to vote for impeachment, and one of them in our where our studio is. I'm in Richmond today, where my flagship is. She's right in the middle. This is Abigail Spanberger, and the statement she made. I just have to read it again because I just can't believe the elitism. I mean, this is a district, this is Virginia 7, where I'm in now. And Richmond, although we're in a bunch of markets in the southeast, Richmond, Virginia is our flagship where I am today. And so Spanberger, in a district that Trump carried by 7 points, all right, 7 points in 2016, I believe in 2020 he's going to carry it by 8 or 9, right? It's only going to get bigger. Here's what she says. I just can't believe this. It's with a heavy heart, a solemn devotion to our Constitution, and a deep belief in our country that I believe we must pursue this remedy. Translation. Trump voters are too stupid to have a job anyway. Screw them. I'm voting with Pelosi so I can get money to get reelected. I mean, that's basically the translation. This is a Trump plus 7 right here, right in the middle of it, and it's with a heavy heart. I mean, you've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, when people talk like that, and there have been some other Democrats, including Pelosi, tried to be somber and they've tried to be serious, but there's nothing serious. There's nothing constitutional about what they've gone through. The impeachment process is constitutional, but not the way that they're carrying it out. And one thing I'm insulted by, because I think this whole thing has been an abomination. It's been an affront to the American people. I think the letter that the president wrote to Nancy Pelosi kind of made the case of what a farce this whole thing has been. But to sit up there and try to BS us, to look us straight in the eye, and I think it's pathological when you can look into a camera or sit in front of a microphone and talk like your representative there, or like Nancy Pelosi. I pray for the president. We really hate to do this. Every American with half a brain, you only need half a brain, excuse me, knows that this whole thing has been purely partisan, and it's trying to undo the 2016 election, as the president laid out in his letter. But I think worse than that, it shows the pettiness. They're trying to besmirch this president's record so that forever in history, when you bring up the name of President Trump, they'll talk about being the third president in U.S. history, actually the second president in U.S. history that was ever impeached, and that'll always follow his line after President Donald Trump, and that's what this is about. Mm-hmm. This is a abuse of power, I think, on behalf of the Congress, Adam Schiff, Nadler, Pelosi, and any Democrat that votes for this. This is an abuse of power and a slap in the face to the American people for what we did in 2016.
Well, they can't beat him in 2020. They know that, so they're just, this is a political ploy. But look, I would have more respect for some of these Democratic congressmen if they simply came out and said, "Look, I got elected." If Spanberger, Lori, any of these people I know, Max Rose that we've had on our show several times, and the guy in South Carolina, I can't think of his name, he's been on. If any of these Democrats came on and said, "Look, I'm voting for impeachment because I got elected as a Democrat. I won with a D by my name. And so I owe it to my party and those that voted for me as a Democrat, they wanted change. And so I'm going to stick with that, and we'll let the chips fall where they may in 2020, but that's what I'm going to do." I'd have respect for that. But, he gave me this heavy heart, Constitution, baloney. You're voting for impeachment in Trump districts, because if you don't, you will get smoked in a primary and you're out of a job. So the only chance you have is to go down the crazy path, go with the Pelosi plank, and then hope you get tons of money from the progressives and George Soros and everybody else in order to somehow stave off the Republican and squeak in. That's your only chance to keep your job. So be honest about it. That's why these people aren't voting for this because they believe with a heavy heart. It's political survival. Because if they vote no, they get beat in a primary that's 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, as far as 2020, let's separate that out because nothing's a given. I don't want our side to get overconfident or arrogant that Trump's re-election, President Trump, is an automatic, because 4 years ago at this time, a little over 4 years ago, I'd say, everybody thought, when I say everybody, I'm talking about the lying liberal media, I'm talking about all the pollsters thought that Mrs. Bill Clinton was going to be the 45th president of the United States. So let's pump the brakes a little on that. But as for the rest of what you said, you're right. But in Washington, D.C., as your listeners know, politics trumps everything. Politics trumps, no pun intended when I say Trump, politics trumps the truth. Politics trumps the right thing to do. Politics trumps what's in the best interest of the American people. So every move that's made in Washington, D.C., by these arrogant Democrats is around politics. And so any Democrat that comes out that's in a district that Trump won in 2016 that talks like that, it's really about Nancy Pelosi, because Nancy Pelosi is very vengeful. Nancy Pelosi will make you pay. If you're a Democrat and you haven't been given permission, she'll give some of these Democrats permission to vote against this to save their seats so that she can maintain her speakership and the Democrats can maintain the House. But if you haven't gotten her permission and you do this, when you're dealing with Nancy Pelosi, there will be hell to pay.
That's right. There will be hell to pay. All right. So right now there's only, I think, 2 or 3 Democrats remaining that haven't committed to voting for impeachment. I know that the one gentleman in South Jersey, Jeff Van Deer, he's switching parties. So I think they're down to like 2 Democrats that haven't made their mind up, Tulsi Gabbard being one of them. I don't even think she's in town, so she'll probably abstain and not vote. And I think there's somebody else from Michigan, and that's it. So everybody else is already got. I thought that the Democrats, 8 to 10 of them would vote no. It's going to be probably the only no vote they're going to have is a guy in Minnesota, Colin Peterson, that's been there for three decades, and that's it. 1 vote. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't know why the guy from New Jersey, switched parties. I guess it's a decision he has to make, but people don't trust that. If he felt this against impeachment, he should have just stayed a Democrat and just voted against it.
Yep.
I would have had more respect for him to do that than to switch parties. But like I said, the folks in New Jersey, it's usually a political price to pay when you make a move like that.
Right.
But this thing will probably pass. You mentioned Tulsi Gabbard as recent as yesterday. Again, she called for just censoring the president, censoring him and not impeaching him. But that's not going to happen. This thing will pass. If she didn't have the votes, she wouldn't call for a vote.
She has the votes. There's no question she has the votes, and maybe, as I say, she'll lose 1 or 2. That's it. Okay, I've got a minute and a half remaining. Well, Sheriff, here we are. Sunday, 3 days before Christmas. Cowboys at Eagles. 7-7. Division on the line. Playoffs on the line. Everything on the line. Now, I know you're not a fan of Jason Garrett, but your coach has won 7 of 9 games in Philadelphia. So here we are. What do you think?
You do this on purpose, John, because I'm torn about this. I want Garrett gone, but he's not the only problem in Dallas. We talked about this last week. It's dysfunctional in the front office with the owner, but he's part of the problem. He's a symptom. Let's put it that way. He's not the disease, but he's a symptom of the dysfunction there with his mediocrity.
Oh.
So, deep down inside, look, I always talk about being honest with people, and I have to do it here. Deep down inside, of course, I want the Cowboys to win. I never hope for them to lose.
You're going to sit there on Sunday with when the whining is said and done about Jason Garrett and your owner, Jerry Jones, and you stop whining. You're going to sit there on Sunday. You're going to have a beer, and you're going to sit there with all your Cowboys gear on, and you're going to be cheering for the Cowboys. And every time they get a touchdown, you're going to be jumping up and down. And when they beat the Eagles, all is good because there's nothing that solves problems on a football team or a baseball team than winning. It's going to win, and then when you come on next week, you're going to be happy, and then they're going to win again, 9-7, and then they're going to get a home playoff game, and they're going to win again.
Yeah, the glass is half full, isn't it?
John Fredericks Radio Network. Meantime, my Tennessee Titans hanging by so much as a thread, trying to make the playoffs. Oh, my goodness, they have to beat New Orleans or they're done. I got to go. I got to bounce. Sheriff, I got to roll. My producer's going nuts. We will see you next week. Good luck to the Cowboys.